Jason Goes to Hell? More like Marathon Me Goes to Hell. This movie sucks.
Let's talk about this shit.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Here's the first movie.
Did you know I'm utterly insane?
Peel that pig and slice him thick.
The body count is always bigger.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
And the fucking trees walked in those movies.
Hi, doggy.
What a story, Mark.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled.
It's just like your opinion, man.
Life moves pretty fast.
If you want your sequel to become a franchise.
37 dicks.
In a row?
I'm your number one fan.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Marathon Me with your host, Rhys
and Kane. And
we're back with the Friday the 13th franchise, finishing all the sort of mainline numbered entries. Like, that's all done now. There's no more...
Yeah.
No more part 2, part 5, part 8. No, that's all done. We're now into a whole new era of the Jason movies.
We're into the new era of the New Line Cinema era. The Paramount era ended with Part 8. Now we're in the New Line Cinema era, where all the rights were all like messed up. Like, they couldn't even use the term Friday the 13th for these later movies because Paramount still owned the trademark to that title. So that's why like all these movies, they call it Jason Does Blank.
I did not know that. That is a very good piece of trivia. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I just found that out last night, and I was like, no way, that's so cool.
Well, and the whole point of why New Line Cinema bought the rights to Jason is because they wanted to make a Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees crossover, right? Like, that's what my intel has told me, is that...
Yeah, from what I remember, that was the whole case, yeah, because, yeah, like, I forgot Elm Street was owned by the New Line, so that makes a lot of sense, obviously.
So how interesting is that, right? That a whole studio buys the rights to a character just to cross them over with another character of theirs, and then they don't really get there for another, like, 10 years almost.
Oh my god!
No, it's more than 10 years, right? No, I think it's exactly 10 years, actually, because...
It's exactly 10, because I always thought this movie came out in 91. No, this was 93, then Freddy vs. Jason was 10 years later and all that, during the year of our Lord 2003, when my brother was born.
So the first little dipping toes into the Jason Voorhees canon is with this film, Jason Goes to Hell. And here's a little bit of that trailer.
Horror has many faces. Death wears many different masks. But pure evil wears only one. And this is your final chance to see it. Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday.
Alright, Rhys, so we have a little bit of fond memories of this movie, don't we?
Well, fond is an interesting word that you've chosen. We have memorable memories with this film, I guess.
I mean, I like to look back on these memories fondly, purely because, alright, so obviously we did the whole Friday the 13th marathon, like, back in 2018 as, like, our first, like, big pre-Marathon Me series, you know, we did it just for fun, and Jason Goes to Hell was one of the only Friday movies I had never seen up until that point.
Oh, cool.
So, and I had known that, like, this movie is, like, despised by everyone, like by all of humanity. So going into this, I was excited, and I think I remembered virtually little about this movie, like, upon a rewatch, apart from the fact that you, my friend, absolutely despised it. Like, you were angry watching this. You got angry.
And I was very excited for the rewatch as well, because I do remember... I remember little about this film other than my emotions coming out of it, and how it made me want to fucking rip my body parts off of myself. Like, it just... I hated this movie so much, and like... it didn't make any sense to me how I could hate a film this much. So that's why I was excited to rewatch it. Like, let's see, maybe I was having a bad day, going through some stuff in my personal life that really made me bring it out on Jason Goes to Hell. But rewatching this film I still hate it as much as the first time I watched it. Holy shit,
Damn.
I hate this film with a passion. Oh, it is...
Yes! Yes! He still hates it! Yes!
It is, and it was worse this time because it was the first time that I watched it by myself. And
oh my god, yeah, that will do it for you, man. That was just like me with Jason Takes Manhattan, man. It just makes it a worse experience watching it alone.
And I didn't even have anyone to take it, take my rage out. I had no outlet person, I couldn't...
Yeah, I know. You couldn't verbally abuse me or anything.
Yeah, I couldn't blame you for making me watch this movie, blame my parents for having birthed me. I couldn't blame anyone other than myself for putting this on. So, man, I despise this for many reasons that we will go into. But what did you think about this film?
I mean, I already said my piece in the intro. Yeah, this movie sucks, man. This movie is not good. I will say, however, there are some, not really, I wouldn't call them redeeming qualities, because there's nothing really in this film that I would consider good. There is just some stuff that is less egregiously bad than, say, something like in Jason Takes Manhattan. There is stuff that I remember about this movie, but it's a shit show, all in all. It is terrible. I don't know what the hell the writers were thinking when conceiving this movie, and while watching this movie, I kind of realized I don't like watching slasher movies on my own, honestly. Actually, I think, just in general, watching this series, I've realized I don't like watching slasher movies on my own anymore.
Oh, okay, because I think that I've enjoyed, actually, some of them. Watching part 6 by myself, I sort of felt was this, self-care, pleasuring act that I loved doing. Especially to, on the weekend after a hard week, especially with the sort of films that I think that I'll typically be more attracted to films that I'm trying to think really deep about and there's a lot to sort of grab onto. But with slasher films, there's not as much of a depth there usually, but still just enough to sort of grab onto. So it doesn't take too much effort, but I can feel fulfilled by the end of it.
No, I agree, and and I'm not saying that I've had a terrible time watching these movies, since we've started watching them on our own. Obviously, I really enjoyed part 5 and 6, and I've had fun watching these movies, but I think for me at least, I'm sure you can agree to an extent, is that it's just a lot more fun watching them with people and all that, especially a fellow horror fan, that's why the previous time we watched these movies was a hell of a lot more fun because obviously we were taking the piss out of them. That's why also watching the first 4 movies together before you had to go back to Sydney was just such a ride of its time.
Yeah, it is also the horror film community is sort of I think referred to as a community quite a lot in film culture.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It does feel like this weird niche interest that you bond with other people over quite quickly, and there's this sort of camaraderie when it comes to horror and slasher films. So I do totally get that. The community aspect of it is fantastic watching it with someone else. But I wanted to say that with you comparing this to a Jason Takes Manhattan, I would watch Jason Takes Manhattan 10 times before watching this again once.
Really now? Because I think the complete opposite. I would sooner watch this than Jason Takes Manhattan.
Okay, interesting. Well,
now, like I said, not a good movie, and this is only slightly above Jason Takes Manhattan, but I feel like I got less angry watching this than Jason Takes Manhattan.
Okay.
That's my piece.
Okay, let's talk about why this made us angry. Because this film makes me angry straight off the bat because of how cheap it feels. We're going from 8 Friday the 13th films made in the 80s that feel like there was more technical care put into it than this first Jason film from the 90s. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, oh yeah, no, definitely. Especially with part 8, as horrible as it is, that's you can tell they at least put with the whole different range of locations in part 8, there was budget and effort put into at least the presentation. It didn't work, but it was there. You could see that they tried somewhat. With this, it does feel cheap and a downgrade in terms of just how the film is presented, how it looks, even to a lot, even like to how Jason is presented in this movie. Can I just say, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking making Jason look like the way he does in this movie. He looks terrible. He looks awful in this movie. He looks worse than Part 8.
Oh, I actually don't mind how he looks, to be honest.
Really?
I don't.
He looks like he looks like a fucking toxic Avenger, bro. He looks awful in this.
Maybe it's just because we don't get a hell of a lot of Jason that whenever he's there, I like the aesthetic of him, because his aesthetic is far better than the surgeon and then cop number 1 and then cop number 2 that kills people around. So that's why I sort of find it an intriguing design, and it makes him look really rotten after, like, now he's been a zombie for about 10 years as well.
Yeah,
you know, it makes sense that he's getting more rotten, and he's like almost like his body is sort of turning on him a little bit.
I guess. I will say the one compliment I will give, I do like kind of how like the mask is like basically like grafted onto his face.
Oh, I love that.
Like that is the one plus I will give the design. I think that's pretty neat. The rest of it, I don't like it. He's too chunky in this, man. He's too chunky. Like his skin looks like way too like toxic Avenger, like just like sewer mutant-esque and all that. It just reminds me of Part 8, and like I don't particularly care for it, honestly. I don't care for it.
Well, how lucky for you then that after 5 minutes of this film, he gets blown the fuck up, and he is
thank God.
He is chunky. He is only chunks at this point, and for a majority of the film, he is just
Thank God.
these little chunks of flesh. But also, like, what this film is telling us is that we're referring to this body as Jason, right? But no. In the mythology of this film, that body isn't Jason. Jason is something much more immaterial and darker and deeper inside of him. Jason...
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Well, it starts that Jason is some red orbs, right? Like, it is... Like, what the fuck? We have a surgeon that is, dissecting the remains of Jason and dissecting his heart that still beats here and there, and then he
still beats and his two sizes larger than the average heart. It shows that Jason's got a big heart.
Yeah, he really cares. He really cares about things.
He does,
and
he cares about abstinence and Christian values.
And there's this scene that every time that it comes up in the film, my blood pressure drops, because I'm like, where the fuck did that come from? Is when the surgeon is holding the heart, looking at it, and then just takes a big bite of this heart, and there's jam coming out of it, just dropping all over the place, and he just starts eating Jason's heart. What I don't get about this is, like, he apparently is not possessed though yet. He's not possessed yet, because we see physically that when he does this, these red orbs escape the body of I feel like a dumbass even explaining this, because it doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like a Friday the 13th movie.
I agree. It sounds made up. It's like, also the whole red orbs thing, bro. Like, while watching it, all I could think of was like they're just like rip off deadlights from fucking Stephen King's It. Like, Jason thinks he's Pennywise right now with the bloody deadlights going on. Like, oh my God.
But then it doesn't even commit to the red orbs thing, because it's like...
No.
So he has to eat someone's heart, but then later, Jason turns into like a worm sort of creature.
We'll get to that.
And then, later after that, then he turns into like a weird dog rat demon thing. And that is what actually goes into, and then like that's the spirit of Jason that goes into people. Like, it cannot fucking commit to the ridiculous rules that it is bringing up, and that is why
it really can't.
That is why it makes me so angry. And you were saying before, right? Like, look, it's so strange that someone would write this. And you know who, like, did you know that a 21-year-old directed this film?
No fucking way. What?
A 21-year-old directed this film. And the person that did was actually quite... So, you know how over all the marketing material, it says, like, from the person that brought you the original Friday the 13th? Like, have you seen how this film says that?
No, not particularly.
Well, it says that all over, like, the DVD cover and stuff. And,
okay.
And what it actually... it translates to is that it's produced by the same producer.
Okay.
But
It's the same whole trap that like a lot of like movies do. It's like from the guys that brought you blank, and then it's just like they just produce it and all that, just like get butts in the seats and all that.
Exactly. And here's a bit of background on this: is that the director is named Adam Marcus, who of this year is 55 years old. This movie is 30 years old. So if you put it back, well, he said that he was 25 at the time when 21, sorry, at the time that he directed this film. The maths doesn't really add up there, but anyway, in an interview that I was watching and listening to, he said that, and he was best friends with the son of the producer that produced this film and the original Friday the 13th. So I think it's like Sean S. Cunningham. I'm quite sure it is.
Producer, and then also like the director of the original film.
Yeah, that's it. And his son, was best friends with the director of this film. That's how he got his in. And apparently, what Sean S. Cunningham said to Adam was that he was like, "Get rid of this like hockey mask bullshit." Said something along the lines of that. And that is why there's not a hell of a lot of the Jason that we know and love in this film. But since then, this interview that I was watching with Adam, there's a bit of controversy now between Adam and Sean. Because Sean denies that he ever told Adam this. He denies that he ever told Adam Marcus to keep the hockey mask out of the film. And like what Adam Marcus was saying in this interview that I found really, really interesting was that he's like, okay, sure, let's just say that he's right. Like, these are the two alternatives, that he is correct and I'm making this up and it's bullshit. So he let a 21-year-old dictate that we are not going to have Jason in this Friday the 13th movie much at all. And so either he is the most powerful 21-year-old in Hollywood, or Sean is a liar. Either way, he's fine with it going that way. So I think that's a very, very good point, and that's probably why I would probably go with the director's opinion here and saying that Sean did tell him, get rid of this hockey mask bullshit.
Yeah, it sounds like a classic whole thing of like, he'd say it back in the day, thinking like, oh yeah, I want to do something different, get away from the whole iconography of the series and all that, really like experiment with my IP and all that, and then, since it did not work at all, he's like, no, I didn't say that, no, like, imagine if this film like was beloved and like actually did like and was successful. I feel like Sean wouldn't have backpedaled on that whole statement. Allegedly backpedaled on that statement.
Yeah, totally. Like, even though Sean, the producer, was the person that gave Adam his like big break, they're not on good terms now because of this sort of like drama that's going on there. Because really, essentially, Sean S. Cunningham did go, oh yeah, can't believe the director fucked this movie up that badly, where it was actually him that, put the thoughts there that sort of led to the failure of the film. But
well, yeah, no matter which way you paint it, this movie as it is presented before us, it exists, it happened, and they let it happen, and we watched it. I paid $5 for this movie, by the way.
Oh, you did? Oh,
because it's nowhere else. I paid $5 for this movie, and then the next entry.
Oh, okay.
So I spent $10 on two Friday movies. That we'll get to Jason X. Very soon, but $5 was spent. I accidentally spent $5 of Nicholas's money, and
okay.
I gotta pay him back because I forgot that it's his bank account that's linked to the Amazon account that I watched this on.
Well, I think maybe just leave it.
Yeah, maybe.
There's I paid for the All the American Pie Presents film, so I think that we're not paying very good films in this. For this podcast.
We really are not, honestly. Like, we're not paying for quality.
Speaking of money, do you know the budget of this film?
No, please enlighten me.
Have a guess, because it feels so cheap that I would guess this would be like a $500,000 movie, in my opinion.
I'm going to take a guess. All right, so part 8 was, from what I remember, saying $5 million.
Yes.
I'm going to say that this probably costs more, but the money was probably put in, like, all the wrong places. I'm going to say, like, $10 million.
Damn, well, you were close in the way that you said you guessed double the budget of Jason Takes Manhattan, where it was actually half the budget of Jason Takes Manhattan. So
really?
It was $2.5 million. I think that even that is more than what you see on screen. Like, I think that this film feels like a made-for-TV movie more than any other entry in this franchise.
Yeah, honestly, like, when you present it like that, yeah, because a lot of the, like you said, a lot of the sets, yeah, they feel like really cheap and all that. It kind of feels like a made-for-TV movie, or like hell, the fucking Stephen King's It, which was like a TV miniseries, felt more like grandiose and expensive than this.
It does.
Like,
it totally does. The production values seem on par to Stephen King's It, which is like a miniseries made for TV, and that was 2 years before this film. So, was yours in a 3:4 aspect ratio as well?
No. Mine was full screen, bro.
What? Okay, I watched it on DVD, and mine was in a 3:4 aspect ratio, which really aided to this made-for-TV feeling.
Maybe that's why, like, the whole made-for-TV thing didn't come to mind for me, because, yeah, I watched it, like, you know, I rented it off of Amazon. It must have been, like, a remastered version or whatever. Like, I say remastered in quotations because the film still looks like shit and just feels like, you know, a made-for-TV special that was just, like, you know, airbrushed a little bit to make it look more cinematic, because, yeah, this film, especially like some of the sets, like Jason's house in this movie, the Voorhees house, it looks like something from, like a Halloween Horror Nights.
I was just about to say,
like, spook house.
I was just about to say, when you go to Luna Park and you go through, like, the haunted house that you pay $5 entry to go through the haunted house that's in a theme park.
Yeah. Oh my god. And don't you just love that this movie is so incompetent that they don't even spell Voorhees right?
I did not notice that.
You did not, dude. There is a shot when they first show off the house and they show like a broken piece of wood that says Voorhees. It's spelled Voorhees with one O, not double O.
Oh my god! Oh my god! How did no one that is on the payroll of this $2.5 million film fact check this?
Look, I have no idea, man. And it is like, honestly, I think it's just amazing that, like, this film does everything wrong. It does not do anything right, and the only things that it does kind of right, it's just like it's still wrong. Like the stuff that's done right is like kind of like ironically hilarious and all, like so bad it's good kind of meme, but not enough for me to consider this like a so bad it's good film, you know?
You know how we discussed how the director of Part 6, he was sat down in the Paramount lot and he then watched Part 1 to 5 in a row to get a feeling of the franchise.
Yeah, he had passion, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like no one here on this set has seen a Friday the 13th film. They don't even know what the franchise is other than Jason has a machete and a hockey mask. Like,
No, definitely not.
That's why they think that Jason is a bunch of red orbs or some shit. Like, oh my god. Another thing that I just was cringing to the bottom of my soul when watching this is when the red orbs infest the Doctor's being and the Doctor's turning into Jason. There's like Godzilla screams coming out of him.
Oh, yes, the roaring. Oh my fucking god, the roaring. Yeah. I forgot about that.
What is this? Is that the soul of Jason roaring? But Jason doesn't roar. Like, where are they getting their intel from to put these gods? Is it New Line Cinema had some, like, assets left over from a monster movie with like a roaring creature that they just put it in there because it seemed more intimidating or something? This freaking baffles me.
You know it's funny though, because you talk about how, like, is that roaring like part of Jason's being? You know, Jason is pretty vocal in this movie. I don't know if you remember, but when he's getting shot to bits at the start of the movie, you can hear him grunting and, like, you know, writhing in pain. Did you pick up on that?
I did. And another thing that, like, Jason also it's the first time that you ever hear Jason speak words in this film at one point, because So even though that all of the possessed people, they're not speaking throughout all the film, like they keep that consistent, that Jason doesn't talk. But at the end, when they're in the mansion, and you know how like so we're gonna go back to the Duke, but when Duke falls in like the trap door, and then two cops, like the sheriff and a cop, come into the house.
My god, yes! Here we go. Fuck that.
Duke is like, kill them both. I don't know who it is. Just kill them both. And she doesn't know which one is which, and they're both trying to be like, no, it's not me, I'm not Jason, but it's the younger cop that is Jason, and he's speaking at this point. So Jason can speak. This is the inconsistencies of this film. He's learnt how to speak now by the end of the film. That's great.
They are just not. They have just not followed the rules that they have established in this terrible, terrible movie. Like, they will keeping it, they'll keep, like, as bad as it was, they'll keep it consistent, not having him talk at all, and then, having the young cop start talking. I was baffled for a second. I was thinking, like, okay, so are none of them possessed by Jason? And then, when it was revealed, I'm just like, what the okay, so what the fuck? You're not even going to stick by your own shitty rules you established in this movie?
It cannot.
Oh, my
God. How has no one along the line, like the production line, went, hey, this actually, we set a precedent, like a few scenes beforehand, we should not have this in. Like, you could also, like, even the editor, like the editor and the director that oversees the editing could have, like, when looking over the film, gone, oh, hey, he actually says a line here, and then just cut that out, because it would have been easy enough to cut those lines out.
But that's like that's a couple extra minutes of effort, though, and I don't think effort was really on anyone's mind during the production of this.
It's so
that's just my best guess.
Also, there's so many like gunshots and shooting in this film that also makes it not seem like a Friday the 13th film. Like,
no, it really
doesn't.
In
the police station, and also when people are getting shot and it's in like slow motion, but like it just looks so shit.
That's one of my least favorite things in this movie. It's just like all the excessive slow-mo in this movie. Holy shit! I don't like excessive slow-mo in films. It reminded me of like a Zack Snyder joint, and I don't like Zack Snyder films. So watching this was like a chore to get through. It made the film feel longer.
It just like, oh yeah, this feels way longer than 120, than an hour and 25 minutes.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely, man. Oh my god.
For something that has a lot going on throughout the entire film, it drags in a small amount of time.
Oh my god.
But I want to talk about my favourite character in this film, but still how ridiculous his presence is Creighton Duke, who is our resident tough guy in the film, who knows the secrets of Jason and is introduced talking to our waitress, being like, I know how to kill him, and I can give you all the intel you need. But how does he know? This is what I'm immediately thinking, is how does he know these secrets? Like, they're not tested because he hasn't been because this has never come up before in the canon of Jason. And how does he know the way to kill Jason, even though that he hasn't been killed before? How is he so sure? And he's been like, this character was introduced he's been in the series since day one, since he's been like a recurring character, and yet we're supposed to buy that. Like, look, I liked the inclusion of this Creighton Duke character. However, I will say it kind of pisses me off though when I saw him in this movie, because he is wasted in this movie, fucking wasted. He has little to nothing to do in this movie. Half the film he is incarcerated and does fuck all, and then just dies. And yes, you are right. He gets incarcerated immediately, and I forgot why. And it's because he hits the cop in the diner. That's all that he does. It's what I enjoyed about him is that he is the only explicitly cartoonish character in this film, in a cartoonish film. And this diner scene where he's trying to intimidate the cop and throws a punch at him is out of a Western. That's what I love, is that there's a cowboy, the mysterious man in the saloon is his archetype, right? Who has all the answers with no explanation of why he knows the answers. But he's like, he doesn't fit here. He doesn't fit here at all, and that's what makes him so funny and a little bit fun in this movie, which I feel doesn't feel fun.
No, I agree. And also, like, when I finished watching this movie, right, I was thinking that maybe this film could have been salvaged at least a little bit if Creighton Duke was the fucking main character, because he's the only character I care about. He's the only one that the only one performance-wise that looks like he's having any semblance of fun, and yet, like I said, he has little to nothing to do. He's incarcerated, and basically our protagonist is... I think his name was Steven or something, like this Rob Schneider nerd-looking ass.
And he's introduced... Steve is introduced like that he's just going to be a side sort of nerdy character.
Oh my god, yeah, dude, his introduction scene is so poorly handled. Oh my god. And then like him and the chick and like the waitress at the diner, they just start talking about like, I need to see my baby, like something about like family dramas and all that, like we're supposed to know or give a shit. Like I found myself halfway through the movie asking who the, like, they're talking about their baby, her daughter Jessica, and I'm like, who the fuck is Jessica?
Yeah,
I don't know who these people are. Why are you telling me this is why it feels like a TV show. This is why your point is so correct. It feels like that this is like the second part to a 2-part miniseries, and we missed the first part. That's why like Creighton Duke feels like a character that, you know, probably had like a bunch of backstory missing because they introduced in the first fucking part of this miniseries. Oh my god. Jesus Christ.
Man, well, I'm just grateful that we didn't have multiple parts to this, that it was as short as it was. Like,
oh my god, yeah.
It really does feel like that miniseries sort of thing, because there's scenes that just feel like that they're from different things. There are scenes like in the police station and in the diner that feel like they're in like a an early 90s TV drama, like. And where they're just having conversations about these like relationships and shit that just feel so melodramatic and over the top, and there's this music playing over it that feels like it's from like Days in what's it called, like a soap opera.
Days in Our Lives.
It feels very Days of Our Lives at times. and then a serial killer comes out of nowhere and gets shot a bunch, and then they keep on talking about these Days of Our Lives melodramas. It's so strange. And one thing...
Yeah, it's insanity.
Like, scenes in this feel like that they're made for my mum. Like, for, like... Or, like, someone older than my mum, actually. Like, someone that is turning on the TV, that... like, an old person that is watching something on Channel 9 at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. And this pops up, and they just watch it to see what the melodramas are that are going on there. And they would just be so surprised when then... like when Jason pops up and a freaking demon dog comes out of someone's mouth.
Oh yeah, this movie's half soap opera, half just incomprehensible fucking nightmare, hellish experience. This is going to be well, I don't know about me. I feel like Jason Takes Manhattan will be my personal hell. This movie's your personal hell, I reckon.
This is Rhys Goes to Hell is my subtitle to this film, and
yeah, not a bad one to go by, man. Not a bad one to go by.
And the nudity also feels dirtier in this because of the low production values of the visuals and the sound. I think that more so.
Oh my god! Why did I not bring this up earlier, dude? Okay, was it like this for you? Was the sound mixing so terrible that like every piece of dialogue was so silent, and yet every like jump scare was loud as hell? Every musical cue was like bursting your eardrums.
Completely. I thought that was just a result though of the DVD, because a lot of DVDs have to have that.
I thought that was the case with my rental on Amazon. I was gonna ask you that if like, oh my god, I can't believe that was like one of the biggest gripes. Well, one of the biggest gripes, but also one of the most fun aspects of this movie. One of the only like parts I remember was just how bad the sound mixing is. My fucking god!
Your reaction to me mentioning the sound mixing sounded like on this end that you got shot, and you are reacting to this in like a theatrical way that you just got shot in your bedroom. So I'm glad that you're okay.
Trust me, I'd rather be shot than have to deal with the frustrating sound mixing in this movie. Holy fucking shit, it's awful in this.
The whole thing feels like it was shot video and audio on a like VHS camera, like the one that your brother used for Calcium Clubhouse. Like,
yeah, nah, true.
like it was actually filmed onto tapes rather than anything else. And
yeah, but at least Calcium Clubhouse had fucking effort put in, you know? Like, at least that was a stylistic choice.
And that's like where... So, like, so the nudity feels really gross in this, I believe. And later on we get this, like, voyeuristic shot of our main waitress. Like, she's getting naked to go into the shower. And there's this, like, panning up shot of, like, her entire naked body. Like, ooh, sexy. And then it cuts to... her crying in the shower, and it's
that felt so gross. I'm like, what the fuck?
This is just like, it's a complete lack of understanding of what they're trying to do here. What is your intentions? Are you trying to make us feel sorry for her or get turned on by her? What are you trying to do? Because you failed on both and made us feel disgusting for both. Like, it's so... they don't understand what they're making. They really don't.
It felt like the scene of her crying in the shower just felt like Lars von Trier took over directing for a second. Like that scene felt right at home, and like, yeah, Lars von Trier, like a Gaspar Noé film or some shit. Like those like really like disturbing fucking. Those like disturbing foreign exploitation films, you know what I mean? Like, this is not what I want to. This isn't what I want to see in a fucking Friday the 13th movie, bro. Like, what the fuck?
Speaking of like Jesus. An exploitative horror that we see in this film that is not in any other Friday the 13th film, is some of the actions that Jason's like possessed characters do that just show how you don't even think for a second. You forget that they are Jason Voorhees. When the surgeon, I think that he's the person that's doing all the dissections and stuff.
The coroner,
the coroner, when he is transferring his body to the next person and he ties up someone in this weird sort of Clockwork Orange scenario with straps and stuff, and shaves him. So Jason knows how to shave and shaves quite well. There was no blood, there was no cutting of his mustache that he shaved off.
Honestly, that was probably the scariest part of the movie, because if I could deal with being strapped up and murdered. If I have some like possessed killer trying to shave my beard, nah, man, that scared. That was the scariest part of this movie for me. On God,
I don't blame you. And it was also that like he shaved him to kiss, like, you know, do like the mouth transfer thing, do the mouth to mouth. But like that shows that Jason has some sort of consciousness of not wanting to put his mouth on another man's mouth who has facial hair. What? So Jason cares about that? Jason, so according to the Friday the 13th video game, the Part 9, like the Jason Goes to Hell unmasked model of Jason, has the... Jason doesn't really have a face when he's unmasked for that model. It's mainly like skull that's left, which is quite cool. It's like mostly skull that's just provoked and like that you can see instead of any flesh there. Right. So that Jason that doesn't have a face is worried about facial hair touching his mouth. Like, ooh, ickies. Like, what the fuck?
Well, I mean, you know, there's a lot of girls out there that don't like kissing a man with facial hair. I guess Jason just shares that same sentiment, you know?
Yeah, but that should not be the case. In my humble opinion.
I agree, it should not be the case, yet here we are. Here we fucking are. I will say, however, that scene, as stupid and, like, you know, obviously, like, ridiculous as it is, it does give way to one of the only things I genuinely liked in this movie was, what was it? No, actually, I think maybe it might have been later. I just know it was in the house. It was like the cop that was possessed, like his body melting after like Jason escapes his body.
That is,
you know what I'm talking about?
That is very cool. Like, it looks like very there's a
Hellraiser. It looks something out of Hellraiser.
Completely. It looks like when Frank is melting
flesh.
And
it like the melting flesh and like his jaw being like grafted to the floor. He's like skin like melting on the side of the wall. Like, I genuinely was like actually cheering because I was like, yes, something good, something genuinely good in this movie. Because like, did you watch the unrated version of this, or did you watch like just like the regular theatrical cut?
I do not know. It was MA though, the DVD. way, and I do see the jaw though connected to the like. It almost gets stuck to the floor, and like his jaw falls off. That's very cool, but
because the rest of the kills in these are so tame in comparison, honestly.
To just like find the gripe out of this is that we see many people go like Jason goes from body to body to body in this. I think about 5 different bodies, if I'm correct.
Yes,
4 or 5. But we only see one melting, and we only see one with with the ode that they're melted. There's all this potential to even suggest that that's a thing that is done here, but also Jason's husk of the OG Jason, when the red orbs leave his body and go into the coroner. His body doesn't melt.
They're still intact.
That's still intact.
It's ridiculous. It's so it as cool as that whole melting scene is. It does present another problem with it being so inconsistent on Jason's previous vessels that he's inhabited. It just provides more problems than it does solutions. Oh my god.
So probably the worst script that I have ever witnessed in a piece of media in my life, because it cannot dedicate itself to anything that it actually writes in there.
Oh no, definitely not.
Contradicts itself on every turn.
I want to make one point that I feel like this film could have almost worked. So I was watching this movie and I kind of had I was kind of thinking aloud to myself of a little theory about. I was trying to think about what could have made this whole body swapping thing work, because it's a stupid concept in general. It's fucking ridiculous. But I reckon how they could have maybe tried to explain it to at least make it seem somewhat somewhat of a pill to swallow was that how Jason in each movie he's deformed, but his deformities look different over each subsequent entry.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I was thinking about was, so when Jason dies at the end of each movie, his soul transfers to some rando's body in the next movie, and because Jason is such an evil presence, the person that he is possessing, they look normal. They look like a regular human, but then his face, his spirit, deforms, twists this individual's face to the point of just looking like a complete monster. But the only issue, one of the issues that I remembered thinking about was the fact that in this movie, every time he possesses someone, they look normal. The only thing they look like is maybe a bit zombified or whatever. They have a bit of a zombie kind of look to them, dead eyes and a bit of fuck, what's the term? Stupid looking hung jaw or whatever. I don't remember what the term is.
Yeah.
But just look like a rabid dog basically, without making them look deformed. And while thinking about that theory, when I realized that oh wait, hang on, that the theory that I'm thinking of is completely negated by the fact that this film is not committing to that, not committing to making them all look fucked up, and then I just completely, and then I was like, okay, no, this movie sucks dick. It can't even my fucking made up theories cannot even make this film work, because it doesn't fucking work at all.
To add a little bit to your theory, I think that's actually a good approach, a better approach, at least to what we have seen. Is you know how when the vessels are let go by the possession and the spirit moves on to another one and their body melts, maybe what if these bodies that they're possessing slowly are almost melting and deforming because of the evil presence inside of them? And you see that with each of these vessels, and then when it leaves, it completely deforms and melts, sort of thing. It ties into that whole melting concept. Also, another thing too that they just abandoned that maybe would have had a little bit of consistency is that Jason shows that his sort of soul is attached to this hockey mask throughout the entire franchise. Why are the possessed vessels not adopting that and taking the hockey mask with them? Maybe that could have given it a little bit of something interesting. Also could have played into the face reveal, because you also don't get an explicit face reveal in this.
True. Yeah, we could have had a little bit of fun with that, but of course this movie isn't about having fun. It's about pushing the Marathon Meat Boys to the brink of fucking insanity. That's what this film's all about.
It truly is what is the point of this film? Because it doesn't feel fun. It feels merely serviceable to get you to Freddy versus Jason, right?
Literally. Like the only other scene of value in this movie is the final shot where Freddy's glove, drags Jason's mask to hell, and yet we had to wait 10 more years for that fucking payoff.
Bizarre. So strange. Especially where 10 years before this entry was around the start of when Friday the 13th even began as a concept. So how weird that between the time that Friday the 13th, the original came out, and Freddy vs. Jason, halfway in that timeline was where the entire franchise became serviceable to get to Freddy vs. Jason.
I do love as well that the whole Freddy vs. Jason tease at the end of Jason Goes to Hell is during a point where both the franchises were in the shit. I think the early 90s was not a good time to be Jason or Freddy. Freddy's I think Freddy's Dead the Final Nightmare came out 2 years before this movie, and that is apparently one of the worst horror sequels ever made. People hate that movie. And then obviously we had Jason Takes Manhattan, we had Jason Goes to Hell, so it just was not, it really wasn't a good point for slasher films in general, the early 90s and all that, obviously because these predate Scream before the revitalization of the horror genre and the slasher genre as a whole. So it's kind of weird that I just find it kind of weird that they would try to pitch a crossover between two of the biggest horror icons during a point where both of their franchises were in the shit, you know what I mean? I guess it makes sense revitalize, to get a new sense of interest for viewers, but it's just you couldn't have done this earlier when you guys were making good movies. What the fuck?
Or it's a chicken and the egg situation though, right? That maybe their individual franchises went to shit a little bit because their priority was sort of set in their back of their mind to have them come together. They were no longer prioritizing wanting to make these standalone films with them and really inject something interesting, new and unique into it. Instead, just service getting to Freddy versus Jason. So maybe that's not
a bad point actually.
Especially you would know this in your life if you were prioritizing one thing that is your main goal. Everything else, the quality decreases a little bit because your heart isn't fully invested in that one thing.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to look at it. Actually, I reckon you might be right, honestly, because wow, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we're at a low point.
We are at a low point, with the franchise, and I think for both of our mental health and all that. I love that, we've spent almost 50 minutes just complaining about just how this film doesn't work. We haven't really discussed the main story of this movie, but I don't think we need to because there's really no story that we give a shit about. I don't particularly really want to talk about the main protagonist Steven or his love interest Jessica or their baby because I don't care. The movie doesn't care. The movie doesn't give them any distinct personalities to have the audience latch onto and make them fall in love with these characters. Because if the movie doesn't care, if the writers don't care, why the fuck should I?
I didn't realize who our protagonists were until probably 50 minutes through the film. Which
my point exactly. My fucking point exactly.
And that is definitely a failure on the movie's behalf. It's Steve, right? Is that who you said?
Yeah, Steven, yeah.
Steven doesn't even appear like he's the protagonist until he puts on this sort of high school Letterman jacket thing.
Oh my god, bro.
It's almost like he's dressing up now I'm the protagonist. Now I'm the one because he does every scene that he's in prior to that. He serves it as a side character to sort of push the main interaction along. And that is not what a protagonist should do.
No. He's presented as a side character. I mean, the way the movie is presented, we think that the waitress is going to be the main character, and then she fucking dies halfway through the movie.
Yeah,
and she's a blood relative to Jason. Jason has blood relatives in this movie. Also, we find out his dad's name in this movie, just as a throwaway line as well, Elias Voorhees. So
I did not realize that.
There's a bit of lore right there, people, for all the people that really want to know Jason's fucking heritage. Fuck off.
Elias and Pamela had Jason Voorhees. Interesting. That's good to know. That feels like a great trivia night question.
Oh hell yeah, we'll be. We'll be the only ones. We'll be the only ones to answer that question because we're probably the only ones that actually sat through this entire fucking waste of time of a movie.
Man, this is the third time I've seen this film. The third time.
This is the wait third. Okay, because you watched it like a couple years ago with me, and then I'm assuming you probably watched it the first time as like a youngin or whatever.
I watched it the first time with my brother, so this is the first solo watching. And
Jesus Christ,
I want to point out two different cameos. One is a human cameo. Did you notice Leslie Jordan? Like as one of the waiter, like the main sort of waiter busboy at the diner. Do you know
who's Leslie Jordan?
Leslie Jordan is like a quite sort of famous, lovable character actor that is like he's very tiny. He died last year, unfortunately. Rest in peace, Leslie Jordan.
Rest in peace.
But if you search him up, then you'll know exactly the dude, and you'll know his voice more than anything because he has this really sort of like feminine Southern voice, and And I think that I know him originally because of American Dad, because he voices characters in that. But he's been in freaking everything and anything. And this was like one of his first sort of feature film roles. And when you look at his IMDb, pretty much every other film appearance before that was in a made-for-TV film. So not much of a difference being in this one. And he gets his head deep fried. So poor guy.
Yeah, I know, and like, you know, it could have been, you know, it would have been kind of a cool kill if, you know, we could have maybe seen some of the, you know, the makeup effects or whatever, but no, they deep fry his head and then they just chuck him to the wayside. You know, could have been a cool kill, but no, of course, this movie can't do fucking anything right.
Do you recognise him? Like, having searched up and looked at his face, do you recognise the dude?
I'm looking, I feel like, maybe, but like, then again, not really. Like, I'm looking at some of his stuff, like he's in The Help. I watched The Help once in school, but I barely remember the movie. Hang on, I'm gonna keep looking.
Gonna keep on diving in the Leslie Jordan. So other than that though, there's also a prop cameo that I think everyone remembers from this. Is that the Necronomicon appears in the Voorhees house? Oh, why? We but we are both correct. Why? This is ridiculous, and it's so just like, is this now an important thing in the canon of like? Well, I guess because like, and it felt very Evil Dead when being in this haunted house, because also like the trap door that the Duke falls through. Most houses don't have trapdoors or shouldn't have trapdoors.
This, and even like the interior of the house and all that feels very like Evil Dead-esque and all that. Hell, the whole fucking plot of this movie feels like an Evil Dead movie with body swapping demons and all that. What the fuck?
Yeah,
like this just.
It gets a little bit Army of Darkness as well, where Jessica is like thrown a knife, and as she catches it, it turns into this like magical medieval dagger.
So fucking stupid, man. Oh my god.
They're just introducing different shit left, right, and center. Oh my god.
They're throwing in whatever the fuck they want, and then also what's worse is that it just makes me want to watch the Evil Dead movies that are a lot better than this. Hell, like there's one, like even with like during the parts of the movie where Jason's spirit, the possessed bodies are like transferring the evil demon worm into the next victim, right? Those scenes, like, I know this movie came out like way before Wreck and all that, but they remind me of the movie Wreck, where like you've seen Wreck, obviously, yeah, Rhys?
Yes.
Yeah, like, you know what I'm talking about, how like the original possessed demon girl, she like transfers like this evil worm thing into the main character's mouth, and then possesses her in like at the end of the first Wreck movie. Yeah. So when I would. This is just like a little like complaint of mine. So seeing that shit happen in this movie, like, again, I know Jason Goes to Hell came out way before Wreck, but I still, every time it happened, I would just point at the screen and be like, "Oi, you're ripping off my favorite horror movie. Fuck off. Don't remind me of the fact that I could be watching my favorite horror movie right now. Piss right off, cunt." Like, fucking hell.
Yeah,
that's just a little, not even a nitpick. It's just something I wanted to bitch about because, I don't like when I'm watching a bad movie and then there's parts of the film that that remind me of the fact that I could be watching a movie I genuinely enjoy. It just makes me more angry.
It's not very smart on the behalf of the shit movie, right? Like, you have to...
Oh, fuck
I think
no.
that as a bad movie, you have to at least sell the point that it's like, come on, what else could he be doing right now?
I can think of multiple things I could have been doing while watching Jason Goes to Hell, man. Oh my god. I got home from work, man. I had a bad day at work. I get home and I'm like, I can't wait to just kick back and relax. And then I'm like, okay, well, hang on. Like, we gotta watch a movie for Marathon Me. Hell yeah, let's just kick back, have a beer, just watch Jason Goes to Hell, a movie that I had fun with watching last time. This was and then I'm like, I'm fucking miserable. I hate this movie. This is terrible. I had like maybe two moments of joy in this movie. That was it. It was terrible.
Well, do you love that Jason's body comes back again at the end? But
man, by that point, I just
how does it come back at the end?
Because the demon worm crawled into the dead body of the waitress that's related to him.
But how how does the freaking dead waitress mother, how does that then get Jason's body back again, as well as the mask and the clothing and the exact same costume? Like, that is completely in service of just bringing the mask back at the end. And
because the script demands it.
And in this interview with the director, he was saying how he's like, I gave the viewers what they wanted though. I showed them the mask at the end, and then I brought him back at. I showed them the mask at the beginning, and then I brought the mask back at the end, and I did it because I knew that the crowd would be cheering. And you know what? They did. They did cheer when he came back. And he's there bragging about it, that it's like, yeah, I did a really good job. And it's like,
yeah, oh my god,
it's like off. if you show them an hour and 10 minutes of you shitting on the floor, and then you get something that they like and bring that on stage for a second, they're gonna of course cheer at that because it's not you shitting on the floor.
You know what? He's right. I was cheering because when Jason came back, I knew that the movie was almost over.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was fucking cheering. Honestly, no, I'm gonna be honest. By the time Jason came back, I was so checked out. I just wanted it to end. I was just like, yeah, all right, let's just wrap this up, please. I'm done. I don't want to keep watching this garbage.
It was a nice feeling when he does get stabbed finally with the medieval magical dagger, and then hands come from the ground to drag him to hell. These freaking rock hands.
Even the hands look terrible. They look like something out of the fucking Muppets, bro. What the fuck was that?
But I know. And why? What? It's another introduced thing that hell exists and there's demon. Oh my god. But they leave his mask. Which is nice.
Yeah.
And they leave him for another hand to come up and take it. Freddy Krueger's hand to take the mask.
Oh god, Freddy, please drag me down to hell as well, so I don't have to fucking deal with this shit no more.
The only fucking scene in this film that they really needed to put in there.
Yeah, literally. I love that before they show Freddy dragging his mask down to hell. I love that the final shot that we see of Steven and Jessica is them walking into the sunrise and all that. That shot of them walking together after defeating the evil and saving the day. That felt like a very end of a sitcom episode or end of a soap opera episode kind of meme. It just was all right, babe, we've saved the day, let's go home kind of meme.
How does one go home after that?
Oh my god, Jesus Christ. How does one go home after fucking watching this movie, man?
I know.
How does one carry on after watching this, man? I've been struggling to find the will to live after watching this movie. I'm not gonna lie. After watching Jason takes Manhattan and oh my god, dude! I'm sorry. I'm on a tangent right now, but earlier that day before watching Jason Goes to Hell, I watched Jackass Forever because I needed something. I needed something fun to watch, and I hadn't seen Jackass Forever before. So I watched that, and I was like, yeah, I'm in a better mood now because that was a lot of fun, guys. Oh my god, I really liked that. That was great. And so, then I'm going into Jason Goes to Hell thinking it's going to be, it'll probably be so bad it's good and all that because I had such a great time watching it last time, and then obviously the last 57 minutes, obviously you have obviously show that was the opposite case.
Oh, I agree. Like, my final thoughts on this film is that not just the worst in the franchise, but one of the worst movies I've ever seen. The messiness, the zero determination to be anything in particular. It just throws a bunch of shit on the wall with no vision behind it. And like, I can't help but feel that it would be a slightly better movie if it wasn't connected to this franchise. It's made even worse that it is connected to this franchise because it sort of ruins this potential for something that I could have liked, you know? Like,
yeah.
It does make it worse.
Oh no, I wholeheartedly agree, man. Like, it's honestly like as the days of since Thursday and like talking about the movie today and all that, it's such a toss up trying to decide which was the worst movie for me, like Jason Goes to Hell or Jason Takes Manhattan. But honestly, I don't know, man. It's a tiebreaker between the two movies as which is the more painful experience. Like, at least Jason Takes Manhattan had like some pretty decent shots in the movie. And then this had like one cool makeup effect. So it's gonna be. So you guys are gonna have to find out in the ranking episode which is worse for me, because both of these movies are equal contenders for two of the worst movies I've ever fucking seen. Like, on God.
Oh, a lot of anticipation right here. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well,
I am excited because then that'll be the last time I have to talk about this movie.
I want to leave you all with one quote in this film that was the only quote to make me really care and really feel for the protagonist and want them to win. And it's nearing the end where the Duke says, "Until you kill him, it'll never be over." And in that moment, I went, "Oh God, please be over." See you, everyone. We'll catch you next week. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page at MarathonMeOfficial, all one word, and our Instagram, MarathonMe_official, to keep up to date on the podcast. And hey, if you want to get into contact with us, email us at marathonmepodc, yes, the letter C, @gmail.com. Like podcast without the arse.